Let's go.
Sketchbook, sketchbook, here's my sketchbook. I can show it to you if you wanna have a look. Sketchbook, sketchbook, here's my sketchbook. And now I will stop this song.
Hey, it's me, Mark, and I've got a sketchbook, and I am going to be showing it to you, but I am not going to be showing it to you alone because I will be joined by some people momentarily. So essentially, I'm a big fan of comic art, big fan of going to conventions and getting artists to draw me a picture, and we're going to be looking at some of those pictures. No G.I. Joe today. But we will have a G.I. Joe centric episode to come, and let's see who is joining us first. I'm going to add in Tim. Here he is. It's the man, the real American Tim Finn.
Hi, Mark. Hello, Talking Joe viewers.
Yeah, wow. And let's not beat around the bush too much. We'll put into the stream our second guest. It's G.I.J. Jay Cordray.
Morning,
here
everybody.
he is. How you doing, Jay?
Hey, Tim.
Hi, Jay.
Nice to see you. And while we're at it, let's put in our fourth contender. It is the one, the only, Chiefy Two Shoes.
Hey, it's me, Chief D.O.G. in the place to be, my loft. Except it's not the place to be because it's freezing. Welcome. Hello, everyone.
You've dropped a G off of your name as well. It's only one G.
Only one G. Yeah, Chief D.O.G. Yeah.
Next to it, just be a symbol.
Yeah. I saw the artist formerly known as live in a Wembley gig. Amazing.
I'll bet.
Excellent. Very good. So we're here today to talk about comic art, specifically sketchbook art. So let's sort of have a quick discussion of our experiences of it. So if I go first, let's see. Oh, there we are. Center stream. So I think I probably started going to like comic conventions in London, where I grew up, mid-90s. Would go up to my favourite artists with a little backing board as a sort of mid-teens, and get a quick 30-second sketch in most cases. I had no real idea that you could actually give these guys money and maybe they might do something that took a little bit more time. The thought just simply didn't occur to me at that point in time, and I think all of the wonderful opportunities that I missed out on by not thinking any further afield than the free 30-second sketch. So we had this amazing convention in the UK called UCAC, UK Comic Art Convention. When that stopped in the later part of the 90s, I didn't really go to too many additional conventions until I started up around about 2011. So better part of a decade out of the game. And when I returned, it was a different ballpark. The sketches were longer, more complex, and more importantly, an expectation that you would be paying to get your sketch and reward your artist for taking the time to do it. And so the results were a lot more impressive than those sketches when I saw in my youth. Let's go over to you, Tim. Are you a fan of the sketchbook?
I am. I have one. There's only one G.I. Joe drawing in it. This is I think it's an 8.5 by 11 standard black hardcover Canson. My first convention was in spring of 1990, I think. I was in 6th grade. My dad took my brother and I. We got there 45 minutes early and we peered through the doorway. This is on the second story of a small Holiday Inn in Washington, D.C., maybe 20 minutes from our house. And the feeling was just so strange. There was all this activity. We weren't allowed in yet. You could probably smell the paper and the plastic from there. It wasn't very bright because, some convention halls aren't lit all that well or brightly. And There's just this buzz. We bought some issues of GI Joe there because at the time there were not collections. There were only 30 or so issues that had been reprinted in various formats, and we had 60 or 80 to get. I started keeping a convention sketchbook in 1995, I think. And my idea is if there's an artist, I want them to draw the quintessential character that they're associated with. And for many years they were free and fast. And then, as you say, I think as sort of people caught up with eBay and reselling,
yes,
now it was 25, 50 bucks, and you might really stand in line or have to go back a few hours later.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, an interesting aspect of actually the sketchbook and the convention sketches, what do you ask that artist for? And you can go down a number of different avenues, like the hot book that they're working on at the time, maybe the thing that they're most known for, maybe there's a theme sketch. Well, you always ask the artist for a very similar thing, or there's just the totally random out there suggestion of something that they've probably never been asked to draw before, and have them just sort of crunch their gears a little bit more as they're thinking, and sometimes that can prompt them to get excited about something, or take a little bit longer. Whereas if you're the artist who is known for a particular character, and that is the only thing that you ever get asked to draw, sometimes they can get in a bit of a routine of this is my shot, and you will get an identikit version of that every time. Let's go over to Jay. Oops. I've just removed him. That was not the button I meant to press. I'm going to press that one. There we go. Jay, what's your sort of? Oh,
That's
I
okay.
want to. Yeah, I'm trying to do a solo layout where you are you're the main focus.
Just
I
keep
don't
it
know the
small.
right button to press. Sorry. Let's switch you back. Sorry, Jay. So what's your kind of experiences with this whole arena?
I never really got that many sketches. I lived in kind of not really close to any big cities, and so we had no comic book stores around. A lot of the comics I got were mail order. So when I would go to a con, it was generally in search of back issues, and maybe the occasional signature. So yeah, not too many sketches. I did get. Do you remember the Aliens Tribes hardcover by Steve Bissett and Dave Dorman?
Mm-hmm.
I met both those guys at different times, and they both drew sketches on the inside of that for me, which was kind of cool. And I think I have Bernie Wrightson's Frankenstein. I got Bernie to sign the inside of that for me. He might have done a little sketch in there. Dave Sim signed one of the Cerebus paperbacks for me. Drew a little. You'd have to know the storyline. Cerebus Bunny and what was it? Elrond Tree or something like that. There was another character that they did sketches in that storyline, and one of them was a tree and one of them was a bunny, and so he did those for me. But that's about it. The only other piece of original artwork I have is Captain Britain by Chris Wozniak, who's one of my favorites. And I had commented on his Facebook page. At some point, he posted a recent sketch, and I was like, "Oh, your best work was Excalibur," and I put the Excalibur cover up there, and he was like, "Please take that down." He said, he goes, "If you take that down, I'll send you an original Captain Britain sketch." And I'm like, "All right." So I deleted it, and then 3 weeks later, here I got this 11 by 17 awesome Captain Britain by Chris Wozniak, which was great. And that's really the only piece of original artwork I have from any kind of artist. I have a lot of signatures and stuff, but and I've met a lot of people, but just never really got into getting too many sketches. I don't know why.
Okay, and
Certainly
Chief.
not like you guys.
And actually, while we're talking as well, we've got a cool feature on this while we're live streaming that people can comment by YouTube and tell us what they're thinking. So let's see what people are saying so far. Oh, very good. Nice to see we're getting the key comments in so far. Okay.
Before we started, I was actually listening to this great podcast called Talking Joe Disavowed. new episode dropped today, and
New episode out today,
was
yeah.
really into that. Almost hated to get on here and disrupt it.
Oh dear.
If we're gonna start promoting other projects, I've got a couple things.
Armor Geekdom is another good one I like. And then there's one called A Real American Book, which is pretty cool too.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, Chiefy, what's your convention and sketchbook experience like?
So I started collecting like American style comics probably quite late. It was about 1992, something like that. And then it wasn't until 2011 that I went to my first convention, and that was Kapow, put on by Mark Millar.
That's right.
Whose stuff I am not a fan of at all. But hey, listen, I met the guy, and he is one of the nicest people in comics I've ever met. So just because he's a shit comic book writer doesn't mean you can't be a nice guy. And you know, he's hooked up with so many great artists over the years. I chatted to Brian Hitch, in fact, whose art I am not a fan of at all. I do not like Brian Hitch's art. However, again, great guy to chat to. And I remember chatting to him because he was the artist on Action Force, and he was saying that when he was 16, he was at his mum's kitchen table, you know, trying to scribble pages for this Action Force book. And she's like, come on, we got to get the dinner ready, mashed potatoes and sausages. Come on, get this artwork off the table. And he's just like, I didn't know what the hell was going on here, you know. And he's actually I do actually like that early stuff. Some of those Action Force issues and those covers, the Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow one, kind of the rain with the fire behind them. He's got the bow. Love that piece of art from Brian Hitch there. But anyway, yeah, so Kapow 2011, didn't really know what to expect, had gone along and was getting, you know, sketches at the show. And then that same year, 2011, Thought Bubble up in Leeds, the UK's best comic convention. That's where I met your brother, Mark, Peter.
Yeah.
And then we subsequently, I think, met the following year for the Rollout Roll Call in 2012. And from that point on, I was kind of going to, as well as you guys, I was going to 5-6 conventions a year all across the country. And as that happened, the budget increased dramatically to the detriment of my bank statements. And like you said, we saw a definite change from what we were used to in the UK of paying £20-30, maybe even £10 for nice A4 sketches. And then towards the back end of the last few years, we were seeing those same sketches we were getting go from £10-20 up to £100-150 for effectively what was the same quality, really.
Over the course of 10 years.
Yeah, I can't really put my finger on what that boom was. Maybe the Marvel movies, you know, sent people that to the conventions or whatever, or I don't know, the collector boom. I don't know what it was, but yeah, I have acquired a lot of art over the years. Hopefully, you know, you can invite me back on and I can showcase some of my G.I. Joe stuff, because I've got quite a lot of nice G.I. Joe related art.
Chief, are your convention sketches sheets? Are they in a book?
So I'd spotted Mark and Peter. They had books when I first got to know them, and they would get, Mark's got a nice A to Z one, you know, and I think the artist, you were getting the artist, they could choose a letter and what character they wanted.
Right.
And you gave them the letter, and they could pick any character, which is quite a cool idea. I don't know, there's a G.I. Joe specific book, etc.
Yep.
But for me personally, I didn't actually go down that route. I was just more of a, and again, not from a negative point of view, but I didn't want to pigeonhole the stuff to one book or one theme. So I was just random sheets. And a lot of the time, or quite early on, both of us found that getting pre-orders, contacting the artists we knew would be at conventions ahead of time, maybe paying a bit extra, but like Mark said, getting them to work on it for a few weeks ahead of the show, you would generally end up with a better piece. And also from a purely selfish point of view, it means you don't necessarily have to stand in line for an hour at a convention and end up getting 2 or 3 sketches. Whereas if you pre-order 4 in advance, you know you've got those just to go and collect, and then you can still go and get other ones, thus increasing your spend massively.
Yeah, we've got a call coming in. We've got, look who's sending us messages.
Hey.
It's Ben Flying Retro, and look what he's in the middle of doing. Yeah, I'm on a
4-mile run.
4-mile run. Has this just started? Yeah, we started a few minutes late, and we've just been waffling about sketchbooks and our experiences with conventions so far, Ben.
Morning,
That's
Ben.
hilarious.
Let's get to the
and-
art, man. I'm here for the art.
Yeah. We could talk talk this stuff all day, but let's get into it. We'll run out of time before we've even seen any art itself. So here we go. So I'm literally going to do this in order that the sketches appear in my book, which is the order that I got them.
Quick question: is that an
Oh.
original piece of art that you commissioned?
No,
Or have you stolen that from someone and just written the words Mark's Art Attack on it?
the latter. Yes.
Is
So
that
that
a
was just-
Shannon? Is that a Shannon Gallant?
That's a Shalon Gallant. I had to claim no responsibility for this. This is something that he did and stuck online, and I thought it just makes a nice label. That was all. So my actual first sketch in my sketchbook is this one here. So this is Barry Kitson. So this is 2012 first sketch in my brand new Moleskine sketchbook. So
Now I'm going to jump in here. You can discuss. You can give us the scenario of how you came this, but I'm going to jump in now. I remember you and Peter queuing for this one in one of those small halls in Thought Bubble in 2012, and I'd seen some of the other stuff Barry Kitson had done, but this was definitely the best piece he did on that weekend for sure.
Well, yeah, he did some amazing pieces. I think this was on the Sunday, and he'd been doing these painted sketches all day over the Saturday. So I knew that he was doing them, and that they were pretty sensational. And so I got in there first thing Sunday, spent almost the entire day queuing because it was literally you're in the queue, he's doing them in real time, and then when you're done, he gets to the next person. None of this give you a ticket. Business.
That's a bit of a newer invention, because you saying that there's generally kind of several ways of getting the sketches at a con. Like you said, some artists will, I don't want to say make you queue up, but you have to queue. You wait your space in line, and then you might be in the first few, so you get within 45 minutes an hour. But if you're 10 people down the line and the artist is taking 30 minutes a sketch, you've got a 5-hour wait on your hands. Or like you said, this more recent thing of giving out tickets, and then you have to come back for when your ticket, no one's calling out the numbers though. Number 47, please make your way to Jay Lee. That's not happening. So I don't really know how that system works. Or the one that really annoys me, sorry to hijack your show, but the one that really, I'm not sorry at all. The one that really annoys me is when the artists say ahead of time, I'm only taking 5 commissions at this show, and then if you're not queuing up 5 hours before the doors open, you've got no chance, because people run. I remember a London convention. Do you remember when they opened the doors and people were literally sprinting and pushing over grannies and whacking people on the head, literally to get to the front of people's queues, because they know if you're not to that person's table within 10 minutes of the show opening, forget about trying to get a sketch.
Yeah,
They're lucky
that was the
Granny
case.
Didn't have a brick in her purse.
Yeah, that was the case for Lee Bermejo at London Supercon. 2 mornings in a row, I was at the front of the queue, running, as fast as I could up to go and get on first on his list. And both times I was like number 10, something like that, and below the cutoff in terms of what he actually did during the day. Some of those, I think, some of the people at the front are either the people who are literally just prepared to elbow a granny in the face and sprint to get there, or are the dealers who are already in the rooms and can therefore get to the head of the punters. So that's the most frustrating, where it's like you do your best to try and get there very first thing, and then you miss out. And you miss out on that person, but because everyone else lots of other people are doing the same system, you also miss out on all those other people as well, because you went for X artist rather than Y artist. Sorry, Jay, were you about to say something?
I was just going to ask, are these all scans from your sketchbook?
Yeah, this is a scan from my sketchbook.
I didn't know for sure whether we were going to be trying to hold them up, and thought that might get unwieldy.
I have two.
No, this is it. So this is how it actually appears. There we go.
I have 2 observations on this piece. One is that when I first saw it, I thought, oh, wow, Casada and Nolan, or maybe just Nolan, because Yeah, the shading, both the inking. I mean, the metallic inking on the shoulder looks more like Casada and Danny Mickey now, but what I think of as that signature look in the Asriel Monthly, that is Kitson and his inker James Pascoe, that differentiates from Casada and Nolan on the sort of Asriel miniseries. These certain shapes in the inking, sort of open shapes and lines. I don't see that here. And so whether it's because Kitson's art has changed over the years, or he's simplifying because it's a convention sketch, or he's thinking more of how the character first appeared, this has a very Kevin Nolan look to it, and it's really satisfying. The other thing that occurs to me is that this pose is slightly foreshortened. This is not a standing and looking straight on pose, which is a little easier to draw, right? When you draw someone's arms straight out, those are not foreshortened. And when you draw someone's arms aiming at you, they're foreshortened. And where my drawing students at least get tripped up is when arms are slightly foreshortened. Sort of anything from here, anything from 90 degrees to here, anything in here is foreshortened. And you're gonna, this distance is gonna be shorter than you think. Your brain is saying like, no, draw that arm more like this. This is also the case with a body that is leaning toward you, which in effect is what's happening here in this pose. He's standing straight up, but the camera is angled down. And I'm intrigued that Kitson chose to draw something a little harder. And it's a really subtle but sort of impactful way to start this sketchbook.
There's a cover that is very similar to this pose, and at this point in time, Barry Kitson was proudly still doing these for free, one of the few, and yeah, so he was literally spending his entire weekend knocking out these incredible pieces for the dedicated fans who were willing to sacrifice their weekend to being in a queue for him. And that's, I guess, part of the reason why it's like, you have to stay in the queue because of the demand, but also rewarding the patience, that you've really got to want to have this piece, because you're not going to be able to do an awful lot with your day. So it was I think pencils, then inks, then watercolors over the top, this one. And the gloss texture of the Moleskine is fairly glossy, so the color doesn't necessarily absorb quite as brilliantly as some other types of paper. This is, here we go, example of one of his covers from that era where he did that very long run on Asriel following the Nightfall, Night's End events. Next up, any guesses? I think Chief might remember, but any guesses on this?
Well, it looks like Cloak and Dagger.
This looks a little bit like Scott Morse, but
it's not
this. Is it Tula Lote?
No, it's not. It's not a bad guess actually, but it's not. This is Emma Rios, who had recently at the time been, I believe, doing some work on Cloak and Dagger, which was where the request came from.
That was a 3-issue Spider Island miniseries.
I'm not too sure if it was then or if that came later, but she'd certainly been doing something small on these ones, because it wasn't necessarily a character that I would normally request. But sort of very impactful, interesting style and composition. It's not your typical, headshot, really shoulders.
Piece for a sketchbook.
So was that you just queuing up, saying draw whatever you want, or?
I think I chose this one just on the basis of having seen her work on the characters.
Yeah, we used to have elaborate spreadsheets, didn't we? So we'd take a list of all the people at the convention, then we'd have a column of what books they've been working on, what books they've done in the past, what their price structure was, what characters we think we might request from them. So yeah, very good.
Chief, is there anything you haven't made us get a spreadsheet of?
Love a spreadsheet. Love a spready. That's going to be a future episode of Armor Geekdom, an in-depth look at the world of spreadsheets.
12 top 10 spreadsheets.
Yeah, my top 10 spreadsheets.
Excellent.
It's a fun compositional comparison to see how artists merge cloak and dagger, since she can disappear into him, and in sequential storytelling and covers and sketches like this is a challenge and an opportunity to keep this interesting. Something else that occurs to me looking at a sketchbook, which I'll hold this thought for a later drawing. How about that? But this is nice because this was inked with a brush, or probably a brush pen, so you get
I think so.
this swirly texture that's not just from Rios moving her hand, but also how the actual brush pen is scraping across the paper.
Yeah, for sure. It's sort of that dry brush effect on it. Okay, next up. This guy has got one of the worst signatures in the business.
Is this Cam Stewart?
It is.
Wow.
And yeah, he was doing these knockout color sketches for probably about £20 at the time. And I think this was the last year that he was doing them. He had a long queue and was doing these very quickly. For the kind of quality that
Did you go back the next day and get a poison ivy as well?
My brother did.
Okay.
Yeah, Peter got a poison ivy from him.
Yeah, that's a cracker. Yeah.
He's just nailed it. I think nailed the character. Just sort of, it's not like a clear rip-off of someone else's version of Two-Face, but it's just got all of those iconic elements. It's got the open mouth. It's got him carrying off the Harvey Dent side really well. He's got the hair, he's got the ear, and interesting choices on the color of the suit as well. Not necessarily the obvious choice.
This character got a big push visually in 1992 with the debut of the animated series.
Yeah, of course.
And I feel like every artist since then is to some extent contending with, I mean that in a good way, that version. The other image, which I think has almost attained iconic status as a comics cover, but is still sort of oddly underprinted and under referred to me, is Batman Annual 14, which was a new origin for the character, written by Andy Helfer and drawn by a young Chris Sprouse. I think Steve Mitchell inked it. I'm not sure. And the cover is drawn by Neil Adams, and it's colored by someone in Neil Adams' family who always colors with crazy purples at continuity. And I feel like those are the two takes on the character that have influenced everyone since.
That's a fantastic cover by Adams, too. I remember picking that up on the newsstand.
I think that's the first really harsh comic that I read, sort of a like a PG-13 R-rated comic, just disguised as a PG-13.
Did you read that before The Killing Joke?
I think yeah, because I got it when it was new. I'd only been into comics for a year or so, so Killing Joke must have come a little bit later. But I think I bought the 13th printing of Killing Joke.
Yeah,
So
I think mine is like 5 or 6 probably.
I was just trying to see if I could call up something clever. There we go. There, can you see that?
Yep.
There we go.
I can hear someone's washing machine going.
Yeah, that's some work going on. I'll mute myself a second and stop. Okay, where are we? StreamYard. Okay, here we go. Let's get the next one ready. Okay, application.
Wait a minute. This is a Batman themed book. Oh no, it's not, because we had Cloak and Dagger. What's the theme for this book?
This is sort of anything goes, really. This was before I was thinking too hard about a theme, and so there's some like G.I. Joe ones in here, and then subsequently I went, I'm getting a lot of G.I. Joe sketches in this particular sketchbook. I'll actually spin off a separate G.I. Joe themed one, but this was kind of anything goes, really. I don't know how well you can see this one. It is Dave Taylor with his character Lash from Tongue and Lash, which was a sort of limited series from Dark Horse, I believe.
I thought this was Poison Ivy after he drew that Poison Ivy origin for, was it a Detective Annual, or was it a Legends of the Dark Knight arc?
I can't remember where it saw print. Yeah.
What's this
Yeah,
creator? What's his book about?
It's a sort of Mobius inspired, because I think he was I think he might have even sort of worked with Mobius. Yeah, it's that kind of sci-fi kind of world.
I bet it's infrequent that convention sketch characters are looking to the left. I bet facing left and looking left. I bet more often they're looking out or they're looking to the right.
Based on,
because we read left to right, and you're turning the pages towards the right, so leading the eye. I think it's an unconscious decision that most artists are making. I mean, in comics, characters are probably more often, it's probably 60-40 aiming. Oh, my view is flopped, so I'm pointing to the right. I don't know what you're seeing.
I think you're right. In most covers, you'll see it that way too. I mean, pretty much anything. Like you said, we just naturally read that direction. So
maybe also if people are right-handed, maybe that leads you to the right. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I think more often than not you'll get people facing left. And
okay, that sounds like a research project for you, Funky Bunch.
Sounds like we need a spreadsheet.
Yeah,
I'm not doing that.
Whenever I draw Batman or Dredd or someone, it's always facing left, always. But yeah, I know what's coming up as well, so I was chuckling to myself because Tim will not be borne out. So next one.
There you go.
Guesses?
No.
Not sure. I think that I've seen some pieces by this artist though, just in the last couple of days on.
Has
on
this
Facebook.
artist drawn Cap sequentially?
I think in some form he has. Yes, he has.
Give me a price on this one.
A price. This one was free, so I got a commission from him and picked it up. And when I picked up my commission, he did me this quick one in my sketchbook.
How much was the commission? I think it was expensive.
It should have been expensive, but wasn't. So I got a good value.
Because your wife is around and you don't want her to know how much you pay.
No.
Understood.
It's because we're still back in 2012 and people were not pricing them
right.
themselves at the silly money we paid today.
Okay. I don't know. Put me out of my misery.
So, what about if he had been drawing Daredevil as the sketch instead of Captain America? Any guesses then? Close. This is a Paolo Rivera.
Oh.
Yeah. So this was not long after he'd been on the book, and Mark Waid, I think, was at the same convention, and when he was signing, he'd sign his name, but he also, this is Mark Waid I'm talking about now. He also had a Braille stamp, so he had to do a Braille stamp of his signature into the book, which I thought was
wicked.
An immensely cool touch.
This is when you picked up your Scarlet piece.
We had a guess here from Chris B. Adlard. Nope, afraid not. Though I have met him many a time. This was when I was picking up my Scarlet pitch, which I had in the background of our last video chat. Yeah.
That was this thought bubble.
Paulo Rivera is one of those guys who he has always been much better than sort of everyone thinks. Right. Mm-hmm. When he was right out of college, he was painting those Mythos issues that Paul Jenkins wrote, which combined the movie and the comics origins. And then I think partly to work faster and to get more visibility, and partly because it was easier and a different challenge, he moved to pencils and inks, or just pencils on monthly books. And like even without that, is it Daredevil #8, the cover that recalls Albrecht Dürer with all the like dry point etching. With the mole man. Yes, the one that's underground. Yeah. Even without, that's just two colors, red and sort of sepia. Even without that, he's one of those guys who his sense of anatomy, his sense of storytelling, his inking when he inks himself, and his sense of design is so highly developed that you know, when he asked for a raise on Daredevil and they didn't give it to him, and then he left, I thought, what have you done? Although then we got Chris Samnee, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So-
who it weirdly seems to be better remembered for that Daredevil run that followed than
Yeah, I've just
Rivera.
reread it. He's overrated, Samney. But listen, let's go to Paulo Rivera. I'm a big fan of his art on Daredevil, love it. And then did he go and do that Valiant series as well? Which I've not read, but I cannot stand Spider-Man, so I'm not reading a Spider-Man comic. But I know he did a lot of books for that. But someone give me some recommendations for where I can pick up some more of his work outside of Daredevil.
there's a collection of I think there were 6 Mythos origin retellings.
Painted art.
Painted art.
Okay.
He did a cover. I think he painted the cover for issue 4 of the Books of Doom, but I don't think he drew anything inside it, which was a mini series about.
Yes, Brubaker.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Brubaker. Yeah.
And in the last couple of years, I think Rivera had a kid, and maybe 2, and he stepped back from monthly work in order to have a little bit more time and control over his schedule. And he, for the last couple of years, has almost exclusively just been doing covers.
Okay, I might pick up that
And
Valiant
some-
book, you know, because that seems to have some good creators on it. I forget what it was. It was like a 5 or 6 issue miniseries, wasn't it?
I think it's 4. I think Jeff
4.
Lemire wrote it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think Rivera inked it himself. His inker on Daredevil is his dad, Joe Rivera, who had not drawn comics before, and who airbrushed the sides of vans. And Rivera was, running up against deadline trouble, and he sort of wondered if he could sort of train his dad to ink. Like, his dad could already draw, but could he sort of draw this way, this style? And it worked out. And it worked out so well that, in fact, Joe Rivera started inking another artist at Marvel who
Brilliant.
was also sometimes having deadline problems from, editorial. And
I wonder how editorial feel about that then when Paolo says, "Oh, by the way, I'm getting my dad to do my inks. He's never done it before, but he'll do a good job. We'll shift some copies."
I think there was a sample. I think the editors are also willing to go with an artist who has been, reliable and kind and talented. And a big thing is time and money. Is this going to cost me any more? Is there any chance this is going to mess up the schedule? And, sometimes it's like, do a page as a test, or you can do half the issue. Or if this issue follows its normal schedule, as long as the pages show up.
Yeah, and I'm sure they had confidence that they knew that Paolo had such high standards that he would not be, letting things slip for the sake of, any of that. Funny enough, sort of the Paolo Rivera to Chris Samnee on Daredevil, sort of, transition, and how people maybe remember the Samnee stuff a little bit more. I saw an exchange on Twitter the other day where someone tweeted at Chris Samnee and saying, "Loved your stuff on Daredevil. It was amazing, such incredible design choices." And they attached to the thing some images of the covers, and he was like, "Literally all of those covers, not me. It's Paolo." Yeah, funny. Let's move on to the next one. Here we go. It's in big letters, so you can probably have a good guess who that would be, even without the signature. This is Chris Weston.
Incredible artist.
So he's you've seen a preview of the next piece. I was hoping to get to. Why is it moving to that one and not this other one? I was hoping to show this instead. Let me.
Okay, there's a family picture.
There's a family picture. That's right.
Big
Yeah,
elephant.
there
Yeah.
The literal elephant in the room.
Chris Weston, famously not a fan of superheroes. So I think having, I've got quite a few sketches from him, as have you, Mark, as well. And, when he gets requests to draw a Batman or a Spider-Man, he'll quite often refuse or say, "No, I don't really fancy doing that. I'm not into that." And he'll say no.
He'll turn things down that he's not in the mood to draw, essentially.
I mean, you've got, this will come up at a later date probably, but you have got one of my all-time favorite sketches from your collection, the Hammerstein from the ABC Warriors, which that might come up on a later show, and that is just my jaw hit the floor. But yeah, I think he with this one here, this Captain America one.
I was just calling this up for the design.
Yeah, the setting, the uniform, I think takes it a little bit away from cape and cowl, which I think was a good choice for Chris to present this to him. So yeah.
Have you guys seen any of the movie posters he's done?
Oh, it's fantastic.
What were those?
They weren't like for commercial.
The Big Trouble, the John Carpenter ones.
Were, just commission pieces, private pieces. But
he did a Thing, Big Trouble in Little China, Escape from New York. Just did those. Oh, they're fantastic.
Various things, yeah.
He also worked on the Book of Eli, didn't he? He did a lot of promotional work and posters for the Book of Eli. And
the Akira movie that never saw fruition, and he's worked on a few that some sort of abandoned projects. He was also on costume artist on episode 8 of Star Wars. His favorite is he's got his the level of detail that he's got and stuff in his work is amazing. Go on, sorry. I was going to say one of his favorite posters that he's done is I think it's called Carry On X-Men. It's the Carry On British comedies with Sid James. So it's a mashup of the Carry On films with the X-Men franchise.
And his work on 2000 AD, specifically Dread, is some of the highlights week in, week out, especially the stuff he's done with Rob Williams around the Clegs, etc. But looking forward to seeing some more of your Chris Westons over the course of these, because I know both of us have got a lot. Mr. Myers, hello, thank you for joining us live stream.
There we go. Hopefully everyone's enjoying this, and there will be a lot more to come. There's certainly more content to share. A top tip though, if you have not checked out the Chris Weston Dread collection that just recently came out, I think it's called Control, then please do. It's essentially a best of Chris Weston on Dread, so have a look. There we go. That's the design that it was based on, and I did give him sort of a set of choices to go for, and he liked the look of that one, his take. So here we go, one of the nicest guys in comics again, both Chris and Bucky here. This is Chris. This is Mark Buckingham taking on Death. He inked the first miniseries over Bacalo, and I believe penciled and probably inked all of the second miniseries, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly.
I was always fascinated. I think this was the first case of an artist that I was aware of, because of when I came into comics, someone who could draw like someone else, to the extent that I couldn't really tell the difference. And the work that I'm actually, it's Buckingham's sort of least celebrated work that I find the most interesting. He did some Star Trek stories when Marvel had the license for the quarterly book Star Trek Unlimited, and I feel like he was the first artist in decades to draw the Star Trek characters, to simplify and cartoon them just a little bit, so that he wasn't worrying about perfect photo likeness and then getting something a little bit wrong and then it looks completely off. And I was really happy during his Batman run, during Batman Shadow of the Bat. But I guess sort of the news is, like, is he drawing more Miracle Man right now? Is that happening?
Yeah, it is. I think they're mostly done. They're just waiting to finish it up.
Okay.
Wow, that's and
the chameleon, so finishing that up, and I think the reason it's taking so long is he's going back and redrawing stuff as well, because high standards.
Who's the writer on that?
And that's Neil Gaiman, isn't it?
Oh, okay.
Getting the old gang back together.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. Yeah, and talking to like the chameleon nature of Mark Buckingham, that some of his early work on Miracle Man, Marvel Man, is incredible. Particularly the covers. There's some of the covers you think, is that Dave McKean? But it's, you know, because of that style of the kind of the physical and the painted and stuff like that. But yeah, so it's worth having a look for. Crispy asking if that hits some ownership issues. I know that it's had a checkered past with ownership between. I think it was Todd McFarlane bought out the character, and then, you know, Neil Gaiman had some ownership issues, and then there was the whole Marvel element to the name, which meant that Marvel had any strip. I think that I had thought that was resolved. I don't know that there's anything outstanding legally still with
Marvel
it.
owns it now.
Yeah, Marvel was publishing it as recently as republishing it as recently as 2 years ago. I think the decks are cleared for this final story.
Yeah, because I think I guess they're reprinting, and they've got up to that gold. Is it called the Golden Age? And now they're just waiting
Silver
to.
Age.
Is it Silver Age?
Yeah, they've gotten through the Golden Age.
Okay, so yeah, hopefully we'll see that before too long. Next up,
Is that Mike Plug?
that is Mike Plug, who I believe is the creator, the artist credited with the creation of Ghost Rider. So yeah, met him in London somewhere. That was London Film and Comic Con 2013. So very lucky to be able to get a Plug sketch there.
Yeah, he did me a Werewolf by Night and a Spirit as well. I went back to get another one. He did me a Spirit. That's a good one.
Aha.
As much as I like Plug's comics art, when I hear his name, the first thing I think of is Ralph Bakshi's Wizards and the design work he did for that film, and some of the illustrations that are just in the movie. He's very much a cartoonist. He's very much drawing bulbous and rounded shapes, and he really knows how to spot blacks and make things appear volumetric.
Yeah,
That was cool. That was cool as well, because you know, I think that's the only time we've seen him over here in the UK, and he's an artist where, unless you're a comic book fan of, you know, pre a certain year, you're not necessarily going to know who he was. So he didn't have a queue, there was no one really around, so you could go and get a sketch and just chat to him for like 15-20 minutes. It's just, you know, kind of, it's a double-edged sword. It's nice when you can get to spend time with these creators that you might not get to see you know, ever, or once in your lifetime, that aren't, you know, a super big name or whatever. But then on the other side, it's like a bit disheartening, because I remember one of the thought bubbles where Mick McMahon was shoved over in the corner of one of the halls, and this is one of the godfathers of Dread and Slain, and this guy should have a queue 100 people long, and there was like no one at his table. So anyway,
yeah, absolutely understand that. Yeah, for sure. Here we go. One of Chief's favorites.
Roger Langridge.
Yes, I have many
indeed.
language
That's
ones.
great. Langridge is someone who I both want him to write and draw his own humor comics, because he's such an amazing cartoonist.
Yeah.
But I also love it when he occasionally does mainstream stuff, like, you know, Muppets, or like he's done a couple pages for I mean drawing, right? Not just writing Thor the Mighty Avenger, but didn't he draw a couple pages of a Howard the Duck story for Marvel? Or did he? Am I getting this mixed up? I
tell you what. He also did. He did. Marvel did a Monsters like Legion kind of thing of one shots. Fing Fang Foom. He did.
Yeah,
I think
that was amazing.
The American adventure style comics, right? The you know, Jack Kirby, John Romita, Gil Kane, Jim Lee, just that whole gestalt, which is a certain realism and proportions, and like not really cartooning, right? And not really abstracting. It's like, you know, Mike Mignola is sort of over here. And when a guy like Langridge draws something a little less cartoony and a little more realistic, it's like Ty Templeton, right? When he's drawing not something like Batman in someone else's style, but like his like Abe Lincoln graphic novel. I find it so satisfying when an editor sort of broadens their sort of scope and again, like I think fans would complain if Langridge just drew a normal Batman story that's not like a Mad Hatter story or like a hallucination because of Joker gas. But clearly he has the chops, but he either wants to do humor or sort of is only given humor and cartooning.
I tell you what, I just bought from him from his Hotel Fred website a couple of weeks ago was the Zoot, which is his self-published book, 4 issues out of that, and it's kind of like an anthology piece of his own characters. It's fantastic. So maybe we can put up a link to his website somewhere.
Okay,
That's
I'll
worth
stick one in
checking
the
out.
link. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think Langridge is just one of those sort of rare beasts in comics that this is just a grade A genius, is just sort of from brain, to hand to paper with just seamless, this is a piece that's, completely polished, but was done in real time here. There's no, altering of lines and going back and reworking stuff. It's quick, but somehow perfect. And also, just coming up with some of the concepts and ideas and the designs. This stuff isn't easy. And he's got down here in the corner. He's got bantam, because he's a bantam hen. So
In a different world, Mad Magazine would still be running all new content every issue, and Langridge would have like 4 pages every issue to do whatever he wants. Not necessarily to take a Brit and to cram them into an American thing, which I know is not maybe fair to the Brits, but to have a really big platform.
I don't think really that cartoonists get enough credit because, a lot of times people will say to me specifically, can you do a cartoon, or kind of a funny drawing or whatever? That's harder for me to do than something that's, more of an illustrative piece because it's just not what I'm used to doing. And if you're not, if you're not practiced at that and that's not your kind of style, to come up with, like I think of the New Yorker cartoons and things like that, where they tell a story in one image, it takes a different kind of thought process than just storytelling sequentially.
Langridge as an incredible artist. Another example, right? His lettering, his handwriting is great, right?
Yeah.
Just as a piece of evidence that he has such control over his line.
for sure.
Brilliant.
Cool. I think should do one last one, and then we'll stop and hopefully we'll come back to this at some point down the line, because I've been enjoying this. Okay, one last one then. Let's go. Oh, I can probably guess.
It looks like, I want to say Jill Thompson, but the proportions aren't. But I think I see a D at the beginning of the name.
I'm not sure if this is someone that you've heard anything from, Chief. I can't remember off the top of my head.
I don't recognise the signature.
It's a Brit. It does start with a D. Someone associated with the character of Death, which is what this is, with the swirly.
Dave
eye
McKean?
makeup.
No.
Yep, there we go. Dave McKean.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Was there a line at this convention?
I think there was a ridiculously long line of about one person ahead of me. This was one of these ones where bad publicity and organisation sort of lucks out people who are really paying attention. So this was at London Film and Comic Con 2013. And at this con, sometimes they make slightly strange decisions about where people are located and so on. So he was, there was a comic section. He was not there. There was a literary section. He was stuck in there because I think maybe he was promoting a book that he'd done the cover for, or something like this. So he was all the way over in a section where most of the people who are aware of his work would not think to try and find him. And so I lucked out, got wind of where he actually was, and was able to go and meet him, and
That's great.
get this sketch.
His work is so wrapped up in mixed media and Photoshop, right, and even early Photoshop, that I often forget that he has drawn just ink.
Yeah.
And yet, I have a copy of Cages on my shelf, and I flip through it sometimes, and I think, what a cool boiling down of these shapes and lines, because his stuff is both illustrative and sort of detailed here and there, but also spare at the same time. And he has, his line feels a little bit improvisational. Like this is not true, but sort of my thinking is it's like a right-handed artist who sort of just also naturally good with their left hand, drawing with their non-dominant hand. There's something always a little wonky or stretched about his drawings, which I really like. Like he's holding his pen sort of wrong, but it still makes it work.
And it's another
And,
artist, it's
facing
another
left,
character
yeah.
pointing pointing that way. And
Black
it sort of looks very improvisational, spontaneous. But I've seen sketches of this same death character by McKean that look almost identical, and I have to sort of strain and say, is this exactly the same as mine? or yeah, so it's something with some practice.
Jay, what were you saying?
I asked. He did Black Orchid with Gaiman, didn't he? A 3-issue miniseries, prestige bound.
And it's painted.
Pre-Vertigo, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And
a
then
nice looking book.
And then did he do one of the issues of Books of Magic?
I believe so.
Okay.
Maybe. And he did his work on this particular character was I believe that he was the artist on the Death AIDS special.
Yeah.
This was a free a giveaway for AIDS awareness, and he had
Death talks about AIDS. Oh, Death talks about life?
Oh, could be. Mm-hmm. And it was a sort of a giveaway, for awareness, so free at the comics stores. I don't think it was full length. It was probably 8 pages or something along those lines. But yeah, it was done in quite a rough black and white line style. I don't know if rough is the right word, but I can't think of a better description. There we go. Chris has been to the London Film and Comic Con as well. Odd experience seeing how few punters were actually checking out the Artist Alley. Yeah, it's an odd show because it's primarily people who are going there for non-comic things. So often the comic section is sort of tucked away and unloved. So there's lots of people going there to meet Stormtrooper B. Stormtrooper 37, in from that one scene, or with
It's
some
kind of
big names
like
as well.
it's
It's a lot of
kinda like the,
sci-fi actors and things and genre stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of like the MCM crowd, isn't it? Where those shows, although they've made a bit of a push to get comic creators involved, but MCM as a brand of putting on conventions all around the country, they, especially around this time, were mainly focused on video games, autographs for TV, and B-movie actors, and that kind of thing. And the comics, like you say, were kind of shunned a little bit either upstairs or in a corner. The venue didn't help, but it was a good opportunity to speak to someone. We had a good long chat with who did we? Oh my goodness, 100 Bullets cover artist.
Is that Reese?
Yeah.
No, Dave Johnson as well.
Yeah, Devil Pig.
We've
Yeah,
met both of them. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, no queue. Just able to chat and.
Oh yeah.
Yep, brilliant.
I went there that time, met Dave Johnson, and blew my entire budget and more in the first 5 minutes of the show because he just had all of this amazing stuff.
He had a load of GI Joe prelim stuff and 100 Bullets stuff, and you basically went with a wad of cash, and 5 minutes later you're like, Chief, I might as well go home now. It's like,
Hitting you up for a cup of coffee.
yeah.
Do you three miss conventions since
Oh.
we're
I can't even tell you. Yeah, I can't wait to get to a convention. There's JoeCon is in Atlanta, and somebody said, oh, with the pandemic, would you be willing to go? And I was like, oh yeah, if it wasn't in Atlanta, I'd be there. I'm especially since I've never been to a JoeCon, would, if it was within 3 states of me, I'd be taking time off work tomorrow.
Yeah, the test for us will be, I think the next really big one that's been announced is Thought Bubble, which I think is November, which feels long enough away that potentially we'll all be vaccinated and things will be back a little bit closer to normal. But we live in strange times, we could who knows what will happen between now and then at the moment. So it's like, at the moment it would just be nice to meet Chief and have a cup of tea, even if we're not going to the even if we're not making it to a convention.
Hey, when it gets to May the whatever, and you're allowed to go into other people's houses, I don't know, middle of May, I'm taking the motorbike down to see Funky Bunch.
Let's hope it's not raining.
Yeah.
Now, Tim, you mentioned the Holiday Inn shows. Those were great little shows. I met Chris Wozniak the first time at one of those shows years and years ago, but they were fantastic, And like you said, you'd wait in line for the doors to open. Did you guys have anything like that over in the UK?
We had one. The roll call was in a hotel. I think one was in Southampton, and then, or maybe back-to-back years in Southampton. But that was in they kind of taken up a few conference rooms within one of the floors of the hotel. That's kind of the smallest con I think that we went to, really.
I went to a Brighton one a couple of years ago, which was basically only 1 or 2 big hotel rooms.
Oh yeah, that was that one where you got your Chris Weston Hammerstein. That one.
Yeah, that was when I picked that up. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that one. It was at Ice. It was called Ice, I think, was it?
Yeah, that's right. Ice. They do a Birmingham show, and they were trying to branch off into Brighton, but it just didn't really get the traction.
No.
There was a hotel in Columbus, which is about 80 miles from where I live, and they put one on every month. And I think all through my high school years, I was able to con my dad into taking me to that show.
And
presumably every month.
Presumably the admission fee was really small.
It was like $2 or $3 or something.
Yeah.
It was nothing.
The scale of conventions, as pop culture has gotten so beefed up, it's so exciting that more people have more merchandise for sale of your favorite characters. There's more fan art. There are movie actors and video game people, because that is also fun. But the simple convention, the sort of smaller regional 1-day afternoon convention where admission is $10 or less, maybe much less, particularly in 1990, 1995, where like 90% of the convention is comic books in bags and boards. Everything else is exciting, discount graphic novels and t-shirts and props and but there's something about, particularly 20, 30 years ago, when there are almost no graphic novels, and the only way to get the story is to buy the issue if it's expensive, or to buy a reprint of it. Just the purity of that, the focus of that is so exciting.
Yeah, there was a definite trend in the UK, and I imagine it was the same across there. Of when we started going, Mark, it was kind of 70 or 80% people taking their books to get them signed, and 20-30% getting sketches. And that has kind of almost not done a reverse, but there's definitely been a decrease in the amount of people I've seen getting stuff signed, and an increase in the art. But you do still get the odd dickhead who brings like all 100 issues of someone's run, plonks them down and says like, sign these for me. And some of the creators will say no, or they'll say 10 books maximum. You have to make 10 trips to the front of the queue and keep going back again, or some will actually just sign them, and then your wait has gone extra long.
And something that's one of those dickheads. I was talking to Mike Mignola at Motor City Con. I think I probably told you guys this, Tim and Mark, and we were talking about the Coppola book, the Bram Stoker's Dracula that he did, and a guy in line behind me had like a monstrous stack of books, had to be 100 of them. And Mike and I were in a pretty decent conversation, and he signed my stuff, and I kind of stepped aside, and he looked at this guy and was like, and he goes, "Hey man, you want to sit down here and we'll just talk while I'm signing these books?" I was like, "Yeah, are you kidding?" So I sit down and we ended up talking for at least an hour, maybe two, while he's signing books and stuff, and it was really great. He shared a lot of stories about working on the Dracula film and working with John Byrne on the early Hellboy issues. So it was really really great con experience.
So thanks to that dickhead, you got to sit down and have a chat.
Yeah, definitly. Yay, dickhead.
There was Mark. There was a question from a reader, listener, viewer. Did Bjorn ask? Can you ask an artist at a convention to draw any character? The general guidelines are be polite. Most artists at conventions are friendly and relatively happy to be there. Some of them have been, I get a couple on the top have been paid to be there. Most of them have been given the table for free because that's going to draw a crowd. Some of the lesser known ones have paid for their own table. And then I think in that middle category of ones who have been provided a table, they may also have been given a hotel room or maybe also airfare, depending on the size of the convention and how sort of national or international it's trying to be. But generally, you just ask the artist, like, if they don't have a sign listing how much, it's like, $50 for a head sketch, $100 for full figure, $200 for color, or $200 for two characters, $500 for two characters and a background. Generally, if they don't have that posted as a sign, a piece of paper right there, you just sort of ask them, like, "Oh, are you doing sketches?" Because maybe they're really just doing autographs. And it's important to remember, artists at conventions are not making money doing their day job in order to be at a convention, right? Normally, I know it's a weekend, but comics are hard. Normally, they'd be at home drawing a comic for an editor, and by taking 2 days plus a day sort of travel on either side, or maybe 3 days to recover from a cold, because when you travel, you get sick. They're taking 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 days out of their normal schedule, and sometimes falling behind in order to connect with fans, maybe see some editors and network. In a lot of cases, to make a lot of money, to supplement their income because they're doing sketches or selling prints or maybe selling signed books. So just ask that polite question. Like if they've been doing sketches and you're 10th in line, you don't have to ask. But it's like, if you're going to ask them to draw a character that they don't know by heart, right? Probably everyone can draw Batman, but if you're going to ask them to draw a G.I. Joe character and they've never drawn G.I. Joe, have some reference. Have the character printed out, ready, or be ready to have them up on your phone and put your phone down and stand there so no one steals your phone.
The amount of times I have left my phone on an artist's table before, I'm not even kidding, probably double figures of me then having to go back and either remember whose table was I at, or they all still had it at the end. But some great points from Tim there. I echo all those, and a couple of things I would say is the reference thing is very cool, because then if you have 3 or 4 pieces of reference and you don't mind which piece you get, you show it to the artist. They might not know those characters, but quite a lot of times they'll say, "Oh, this guy looks really cool. I just fancy drawing that person there." They might not even know, but they just like that design. They put their own spin on it. So reference is key. Another thing I would say is if they don't have a sign about price, and no one wants to talk about money, but ask about price, almost straight away when you're asking if someone's sketching, because there's been a few times where I've said, someone didn't have a list up, and I've said, "Oh, can you do me this piece?" They've said, "Yeah, I can get that for you. Come back in 45 minutes," or they'll put me on the list. We'll start chatting. They might sign a book for me. And then as I'm about to leave, I say, "Oh, how much is that?" And then they say a figure, and it was 5 times more than I was expecting. Then I'm in a position where I swallow my pride and just go with it and say, "Okay, yeah, cool." Or I then have to suddenly backtrack, and now I feel really awkward because I've kind of wanted this piece done. I've asked the artist to do it, and then I'm saying it's not worth what they're charging. So just, just put the question at the beginning, how much is that likely to cost? And there is some wiggle room to negotiate with artists as well, I found sometimes. So don't try and be cheap. What I'm saying is don't always undercut what they're trying to charge, but
Yeah, more from the possibly the angle of saying, this is my budget. Potentially, what can you do me for that? Rather than saying,
I've done that.
I've done that. I'll pay you this. Yeah,
I've done that a few times, and I've said, look, I've got 50 quid left. Just do me whatever you can do for 50 quid, and you end up getting sometimes you end up getting a better piece than you would have thought.
One last piece of advice: you don't need to bring a pen or a marker. They will have that, right? they may want to sign on the cover, or they may want to sign if on the first page. Probably they're going to choose. Maybe you can ask, oh, could you do this with your silver marker, not your black Sharpie? Yeah. Do bring your own paper or a clipboard with sheets of paper or a sketchbook. Almost never have I seen an artist at a convention. Actually, since this is vaguely a G.I. Joe themed podcast vlog, Larry Hama is one of the only writers or artists at conventions who I see brings his own paper ready to go in a clipboard. But do bring your own paper. Yeah. And if you forget, go buy the cheapest comic book you can, pull the board out of the bag, and then in 20 years kiss that art goodbye, because those boards are meant to be replaced every 5 years.
Is that right?
Make sure you scan that.
You're supposed to kiss that board goodbye. Bags and boards are meant to be replaced every 5 or 10 years. Okay. They do age and like release their acid, unless you buy the very expensive, utterly acid-free ones.
Yeah. Ooh, got a big project ahead of me then.
Not to scare Bjorn. Just bring paper or a sketchbook.
Yeah, the artists, they're just human beings. Just talk to them, be polite. Cool. Maybe they'll want to draw the character you choose. Maybe they don't have an interest in that character, but that's okay. Just go with it. But yeah, we're right up time. I think Chief is to be somewhere. And there we go. Not all sketch. Some artists prefer to not be on a sketch cover, or to a particular piece of type of paper or whatever. Some prefer not to even draw certain types of characters. But with all of that said and done, check out more about Talking Joe at talkingjoe.co.uk. Tim,
arealamericanbook.com.
And then Jay on Facebook. And which way do I need to point down? There, Chief.
Just search I'm a Geekdom in YouTube. Look out for some content there. I hope you're going to have us back on for part 2 of this, Mark.
Yeah, there's gonna have to be more parts of this, as long as you guys are willing to keep on going with it. I think I'm more than happy to do them, because lots of interesting content. It's been fun, and thanks everyone, you guys, for joining me and talking to me, and listeners, and joining in on the chat and stuff. It's been great.
And then also I'm going to steal this idea and then get you to come onto my show as I do my art on my program.
Excellent.
And Chief,
okay.
You want to talk toys? I'm there because I just picked up that Snake Supreme on your recommendation. I watched your video and was like, I gotta get that. I'm like, that is so great looking.
You're like a dealer pushing product.
Yeah,
sure. Okay,
Mark said what'd you say? I was weak-willed and something, Mark, when I told
lily-livered and weak-willed. I don't know. That's done. I'll bookmark it in. Jay's going to be guest star on Armour Geekdom to talk some toys. Are you an X-Man fan? Are you a Street Fighter fan? I've got some stuff lined up.
Mostly just Joe. I don't have any other action figures.
Okay. I've got some Joe stuff.
Very
we can do that.
Cool.
Cool. All right. Ciao for now. Because when all is said and done, we'll see you down the road.
We've been Talking Joe.
And we're all out of Joes.
But
Thanks,
not us.
Chris.
There's loads. There's loads.
The stream is still going.
Yep. There you go. End broadcast.
Buy this man.